잠실 개표소가 위치한 서울 올림픽공원에서 시민들의 항의 집회가 길어지고 있는데요. 지난주 집회 현장을 방문해 시민과 청년들을 독려했던 모스탄 전 국제형사사법대사를 에포크타임스가 만나봤습니다. 선거 관련 이슈에 대한 발언뿐만 아니라 국제형사사법대사라는 전직 고위 외교관으로서의 삶과 사명에 대해서도 솔직한 이야기를 나눴습니다.
Let me introduce you to Ambassador at Large for Global Criminal Justice, Mr. Morstein.
Good to meet you.
Wow, it's my honor too. Oh wow, I kind of recognize your T-shirt. Would you like to talk about your T-shirt a little bit?
Sure. This is a T-shirt that is talking about the K-Revolution, the Korean Revolution that's happening in Olympic Park here in Korea. And, this goes right along the lines of what President Trump wrote on Truth Social. What is going on in South Korea? It looks like a revolution or a purge. In actuality, it's a revolution and a purge. He was right on both counts. And in a sense, what's going on in Olympic Park is a counter-revolution because there has been a communizing revolution that is going on in South Korea where there was a coup d'etat where the levers of power in the government were stolen. And this is now a counter-revolution by the people to try to oppose the communization that is happening at a rapid clip here in Korea right now. It may be shocking to hear for many in the US, but President Trump got it right, that there's a revolution and a purge going on in South Korea, and this counter-revolutionary movement in the Olympic Park and in the country is a hopeful movement to counter the coup d'etat that has happened here in South Korea.
Would you mind if we go to your little bit of a personal story?
Sure.
Yeah. Then the path to law. You have been serving as a U.S. lawyer, attorney, and then you actually got a really high-ranked government job for international law.
Yes.
What we're interested in, I understand that becoming a legal scholar was your childhood dream? Was it?
Not my childhood dream, but actually when I was in college, the pre-law director at the college was the biggest influence towards my going to law school. My dad also thought it was a good direction for me as well. But something that's been a theme of my life is I have a passion for justice. And so as far as I can remember in my life, I've had a strong passion for justice. And so and when I wrote my personal statement to go to the law school that I graduated from, I wrote about how I wanted to do something about the terrible situation in North Korea. That was what my personal statement was all about. And so I'm one of those strange people who has actually done what I wrote about in my application, where I have written more law review articles about North Korea than anyone else. I've written an extensive book that is 50% longer than the average doctoral dissertation at Oxford University about the security and human rights crises relating to North Korea, really seeking justice. And so justice has been a major theme of my life. I have a passion for it. I think God has given me this passion. And so when I see great injustice, that is something that I try to fight against, and I try to fight for justice. When I was actually filling out the generic online application to be willing to serve in the US government, one of the questions was, why do you want to serve in the Trump administration? They gave you a lot of space to answer. I wrote one sentence. I wrote, I want to help President Trump to succeed in pursuing justice, period. That's all I wrote. That's all I wrote. Because that's the real reason, that's the actual reason, and then he put me into the top position in the US government, a unique position in world history, to seek justice in regards to mass atrocity crimes, genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity. So justice is my life mission, right? So it's not, it's something that I have a great passion for.
And to talk about the role of the ambassador at large. Many people know, but also a lot of people are not familiar with that because
Yes.
they know ambassador as just going to a different country and representing that country. But
Yeah.
representing global criminal justice might be a little familiar. So,
Yeah.
would you describe how would you describe the role of ambassador at large
Sure.
from your perspective?
Sure. So, like you said, most people know about country ambassadors. You know, the ambassador to Zimbabwe, the ambassador to Brazil, the ambassador to Burma, or whatever other country. That's the most common type of ambassador. Second most common, but it's much less common, is an ambassador to an international organization. The UN ambassador, the ambassador to the Organization of American States, or the ambassador to the Asian Development Bank. This is the second most common. The least common are ambassadors at large. Ambassadors at large apply a certain theme. In my case, it was global criminal justice around the whole world. So it's not limited geographically. It's not limited to one organization. Your job is to pursue that mission representing the United States of America to the whole world. And in the case of the ambassador at large for global criminal justice, this position has never existed in any other government in the world in all of human history except the United States of America, which is why I said during my confirmation hearing, the fact that this position exists is a testament to the goodness and greatness of the United States of America. And something that I found out after I was in the position was that I was actually the first Asian American ambassador at large in US history. I was kind of shocked. I thought surely there must have been some other one, but when I looked at the list of all the people who have ever served as US ambassadors at large, there had never been an Asian American before. I also had the privilege of serving as one of Trump's youngest ambassadors during his first term. And so it was amazing to be entrusted with that kind of mission. But I was so excited to do so, and from beginning to end, I was all about pursuing that mission of justice.
Next up, we're gonna go to the current system of managing election in Korea. The first question is, some critics argue that raising concerns about South Korea's election without a final judicial ruling is borders on conspiracy theory?
I think that's a laughable statement. I told you why you can't count on the judiciary. In Korea, it's like they're paid parts of the National Election Commission. They're like, nothing to see here. We're not going to allow investigation. We're not going to judge on the merits of the case. It's not that they are gathering evidence and examining on the merits and coming to well-reasoned judicial decisions. Is that they are blocking investigation, that they are not getting to the merits, and they're dismissing the cases. So in light of that, I think it is laughable to say, the judicial whatever. No, they're not doing much of anything to really pursue the actual truth and merits and justice of the situation at all. On the other hand, I was leading the election monitoring team in the 2025 election, and we wrote a public report that is available to anyone to see online in terms of what the problems were there. And I have also been part of the Korean American election investigation team that is going on during the 2026 election. And so this is not some sort of wild goose chase looking for things that don't exist. I would have been happy, frankly, I would have been happy if I was part of both of those teams and I looked at it and I said, great, the elections are fair, the elections are free, the elections have integrity, the elections have transparency, but I have seen the opposite. And there are so many indications of that. And now, if people, the mainstream media likes to call me an election fraud conspiracy theorist, well, you'll now have to call just about the whole country that, because the country is overwhelmingly aware now that the election fraud is real. They have been suffering from it, and their country is being taken away from them through that. And so because that's the case, when you have 140 locations where they don't even have enough ballots for citizens to vote, That's voter suppression. That is election cheating. And these were particularly focused in conservative parts and districts of Korea, right? And so when you have all sorts of different kinds of fake ballots that are there, when you have electronic election system that is so vulnerable that Korea's own NIS, which is the equivalent of the CIA in the US, they have identified it as flunking the penetration test that was done that shows it's so vulnerable to being interfered with. When you have Huawei components that are in the electronic system, when you have the National Election Commission touting Chinese leaders, you know, when you have, it is also known that Wang Huning, one of the top people in the Chinese Communist Party, together with Han Fangming, who has been more of the operational person relating to Korea, when you have election cheating that has followed the Belt and Road Initiative all over the world, when you have the Association of World Election Bodies here in Korea, which is exporting the means of election fraud all over the world, this is what is going on. And so, you know, people who want to dismiss it as an election fraud conspiracy thing, no, these are election fraud advocates. These are usually people who have some sort of benefit or interest in seeing that the election cheating is not known as much. But now the cover has been blown open, and the overwhelming majority of Koreans know that this is what has been going on, which is why day and night, they are in the Olympic Stadium protecting the ballot boxes to demand that there be a fair election run again, and that it be one day, single day voting, that it's paper ballots, that it be transparent, that it be done in a way that's actually fair, right? That actually reflects the will of the people, because it has not. And, you know, you have insiders coming from the National Election Commission who are whistleblowing publicly and saying, this is the fraud that's going on inside. And they are publicly laying it out. They know that from the inside, and they're sharing it. They are not election fraud. They are election fraud witnesses, is who they are. And that is what is happening. You know, there was someone who resigned because his conscience would not allow him to stay at the National Election Commission. And he told me he resigned in 2002 because election fraud was going on even then. So for 24 years, this has been going on, and it has been wrecking the country in all sorts of ways. And the people have had enough.
Then the current National Election Committee are protected by the Korean Constitution, so we cannot really go through their files, like how do you use their money, how do you use their budgets, how do you hire people, like it's all like under the veil. So as a formal government official, you know how you're familiar how the government functions, right? And then you have pointed out our clear statistical anomalies in recent Korean elections. Beyond the outcome of any specific race, what immediate institutional reforms must South Korea adopt to ensure absolute transparency in its democratic process?
The National Election Commission needs to be destroyed. AWEB must be dismantled, and the people should run their own elections. Because, you know what? The Korean people know how to count.
We picked some tricky questions for you.
Go for it.
First question is, fake IDs on Korean flight to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Suspicion that fake identification cards were loaded onto a Korean Air flight bound to Arizona during the 2020 U.S. presidential election. What evidence exists in what form? And is it third-party verifiable?
Yeah, so this is according to a public report put out by FBI Director Kash Patel. And so this is, I believe, something that could be checked and cross-checked as well. So this is based on Director Patel's public report.
Thank you so much. And As Mr. Director Patel, he's current API minister.
Director, yes.
And the second question is, Michigan voting data allegedly deleted from Songnam City, South Korea. Suspicion that certain voting data from the state of Michigan were remotely deleted from Songnam, South Korea, which is weird. Why? What evidence exists in what form, and is it also third-party verifiable?
So this is through Mike Lindell's lawsuit that he brought in Colorado in regards to the 2020 US election. And this is based on IP data that he presented as evidence in that lawsuit. And it was specifically Antrim County, Michigan, and precisely 6,432 votes that were deleted, that were Trump's votes for President Trump that were deleted. And I've been to this Songnam Stadium, and I've seen this place for myself. And this is based on the IP evidence that Mike Lindell put forward in that lawsuit.
Okay, what we were originally planning was pick a few questions for you, but I kind of feel like you are giving me really concise and straightforward answers. So, do you mind if we go through all the questions?
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Plans for official submission and disclosure of evidence. Does he intend to officially submit or disclose the evidence to investigate authorities, courts, Congress, or media in the U.S. or South Korea? If so, what is the expected timing and method? How would you disclose those data to the Korean media?
Are you talking about the evidence of election fraud right now? Or, oh, okay. So the first time around when I came last year leading the election monitoring team, we already submitted our public report to the Director of National Intelligence, to the Department of Justice. We presented it at the National Press Club. We presented it in the US Congress. And so we have made our findings public. It is available through election-fraud.com if you want to read the report yourself. And so we've done that. And so I've also been publicly speaking about what has been found in regards to the current year's election, the June 3rd election that happened in 2026. And so, so there's really nothing to hide about it. This data is also being rigorously analyzed and by Dr. Douglas Frank. And he has been rigorously analyzing it with the rigor of a Nobel nominee scientist who has tremendous expertise and knowledge in how to analyze this kind of data and evidence. And so this is all being put together as well. And so these are not things that we have any intention of hiding. We want it to be available not only to people in government, but to people in general, not only to international organizations, but people from any country who want to examine these sorts of things. Because unlike the NEC, unlike AWeB, we believe in transparency. And we believe in making publicly available what we have gathered and what we have before us. And so we have no problem with that. And we'll plan to continue to move forward in a public and in a transparent way.
If future investigations or legal proceedings conclude there is insufficient objective evidence, do you intend to modify or withdraw your previous statements or claims?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll add to that. I would be happy to be wrong. I don't want there to be election fraud. Why would I want there to be election fraud? And this is, I'm not even a citizen of Korea. You know, I never plan to run for any office in Korea. So I'm not a Korean politician either, you know? So this is not about me or my future aspirations. Have nothing to do with that. So yeah, so if I am wrong and there has been no election fraud, it's been clean, it has integrity, I would celebrate that. But I've seen too many indicators that are telling me the opposite. So It would be dishonest of me to say that I haven't seen these indicators of election cheating.
All right, Ambassador, our next question is, you are under investigation for defamation regarding a statement about President Lee Jae-myung and is subject to a departure ban. And I think this is the last day of the departure ban, is it? Yes. And have you secured new evidence materials, or are you maintaining your prior interpretation of existing materials?
I am maintaining my stance, but I have also obtained new materials as well, actually.
Right. Could you elaborate more on that?
Well, I will say that the materials are extensive, and if anything, have increased my confidence and confirmed my thinking in this regard.
And the next question, the next group of questions will be about AWEB and the CCP.
Sure.
Then, Ambassador, you've been claiming that AWEB has served as a vehicle for expanding election system into developing countries under CCP influence, including Korea, Vietnam, or the other Asian countries, or Africa especially. What is the core evidence, and which specific AWEB projects or decisions support this?
Go to AWEB's own website, and it'll tell you that there are many AWEB member countries. It's great. I see the Korean patriots who, when I say, look at what has happened with Kyrgyzstan, they then research Kyrgyzstan and they find that this is what happened in Kyrgyzstan, that the people rose up and they surrounded the legislature and there was major change that happened in Kyrgyzstan. Or look at the videos of the protesters from the Democratic Republic of the Congo who come to protest in front of AWEB to say, you've messed up our country. You've ruined our elections, right? Why would they come all the way from the Democratic Republic of the Congo if nothing happened, right? And you can go into instance after instance after instance, and I welcome people, try to confirm what I'm saying and see if this actually happened. And time after time after time, these citizens of Korea are digging into it, and they go, is what Ambassador Tan is saying correct or not? And they realize it is very much the case, and that these are the things that have happened. And you can see some of these basic facts on AWEB's own website, and you could do your own research or see what the research has been done by Korean patriots and Korean citizens that confirm again and again and again and again that this is all true.
The next question will be, which international organizations or experts from, if you specify a country, would be nice, should participate, and what should the scope cover? For example, electronic equipment, vote counting, voter registries, early voting, and that stuff. Would you like to share your opinion about this?
Yes, my very short answer is everyone and all of the above. So invite election monitoring teams from anywhere in the world, any international organization, all of the above, every aspect of the voting, if there's still an electronic system, the counting of the ballots, you name it, 100% transparent election should be the goal. This is why Taiwan and the US welcome these sorts of monitoring teams from anywhere. They're all welcome to come. Come and see it, because why? If you have nothing to hide because you're not doing anything wrong, then you should accept 100% full transparency from any election monitoring team from anywhere to inspect and look at anything related to the election. Well, we've seen the opposite. Like when we visited voting places, they don't want us to take pictures. They don't want us to video anything. They call the police on us. They even kicked us out of a voting center. They don't want us to see the post office where they have it. This is the exact opposite of a transparent election.
Next question. You previously stated that you will remain in Korea and continue activities despite the departure ban and any sort of persecution by the government authorities. What is your priority, and do you plan to officially contact or submit materials to the National Assembly, investigative agencies, or civil society organizations?
Well, the thing is, I have not done anything hidden in a corner. I've been very public in what I've said in my speeches and in my media things. And there has not been a single question that I've been asked that I haven't addressed by any media source. And so this is all available for people to, you name it, anyone can access and evaluate, look at what I'm saying and what I'm putting forward. And so I have, unlike the NEC and AWeB, I've sought to be transparent, right? In even about personal things, in terms of things. Now, at the same time, I have to be wise and have discretion because I don't want other people to be harmed by disclosing things that are inappropriate to disclose. So I still retain a measure of discretion in terms of not sharing things that could potentially harm other people. But generally speaking, I've been very candid and I've been very open and I've shared these things that I've shared publicly and not in a corner. So if any of them want to see it, they're welcome to hear what I say and to watch what I put forward.
At the Olympic Park rally and the peaceful protest, the ballot shortage was linked to election fraud claims. Are these two matters separate or part of one structural problem?
They're all part of one structural problem. I mean, they're all part and parcel of the election cheating that has been taking place. Look, according to the Carter Center, a lack of transparency by itself is a red flag. It's a red flag because everyone should legitimately ask, what are they hiding, right? And they're hiding a lot. They're hiding a lot. And there's a lot of lies and propaganda and misdirection and name calling and attempts to try to keep people from looking at what is true. But the thing is, it's become so apparent to the Korean people. And I think there's a Korean saying that these people are treating the Korean people as dogs and pigs. In other words, as if they're stupid or something. But it's become so obvious to the Korean people that they are guarding these boxes of ballots at the Olympic Park. And they are fighting for this representative democracy. They are fighting for the will of the people to be expressed in these elections. This is so central and so important. And so many people in Korea have woken up to this. And so people are coming literally from all over the country, even from the far reaches of the country, to come to fight for their constitutional republic, to fight for representative democracy. And they know that these things are in danger and in jeopardy, and that this has been stolen from them for the last 24 years.
There, in the Olympic Park, people are separated into two groups. One is talking about the election fraud, that one is questioning about the poor election management itself. And do you think the current situation is more likely to be either one of those? And how would you describe it?
Yeah, this is resoundingly election fraud. It is not mere unintentional mismanagement. And this is not something that is just happening on a small scale. This is happening on a large scale. And this is not something that has happened accidentally, but this is something that has been happening by design, by intentions. And so, look at the report from the 2025 election. Look at all the other indications of fraud that are there. This would be like saying this, is if you saw a supercomputer and you said, how did that supercomputer come about? And one person said, well, there was a windstorm in a junkyard and all these parts came together and it created the supercomputer. And another person said, no, the supercomputer was designed and made very specifically the way it was made and designed. Which of those two instances is this? I see too much design, I see too much intentionality, too many evidences of criminal intent and criminal actions that this is not a supercomputer being built through junk being thrown together in a windstorm. You know, if someone were to actually believe that, I would say they probably have not looked at the indications and evidence that exists, and also the evidence that should be revealed as well, that I keep calling for transparency along these lines. And so I'm thoroughly convinced. I have dealt with evidence a lot, you know, as an attorney, as a law professor, and there's a lot of, as they say in the language of evidence, there is a lot of clear and convincing evidence.
Although there are so many issues like brought up public regarding the poor election management or like election fraud, but still there are 30 to 40% of the Korean people who are ignorant of the politics or current news, or just they don't have any party affiliation. And generally they are kind of ignorant toward the issues. So what would you, if you lived one sentence toward that, what would it be?
You should care about this and look into it because it is your country, and the consequences of what are happening and what can happen in the future to the country are in grave danger because what is happening. And so the people are doing a great job of fighting in the midst of this very oppressive and repressive situation, where there are grave dangers from the Chinese Communist Party, from North Korea, from the radical leftists in South Korea who are communizing this country, who are collapsing the rule of law, who are trying to turn the miracle on the Han River into the prey of North Korea and the Chinese Communist Party. This is the real hybrid, unrestricted warfare that is being waged against the Korean people, and the Korean people are fighting strongly, bravely, persistently, tenaciously to try to keep their country. And I salute that. I praise that. I think this is a historic time where the communists think they could finally take over and break the country. And the Korean people are fighting courageously and bravely against it. And I truly have a great deal of respect for that. And I only want to encourage them in this important fight that is there. The distraction of the World Cup is gone in terms of Korea's participation, but this is way more important than a soccer match. This is way more important than the Olympics. This is about a crossroads that the Korean country is in. And is Korea going to be communized? Or is Korea going to remain a constitutional republic that is for justice, truth, and liberty? That is the crossroads we're at. And the people of Korea are fighting bravely and wonderfully for this path to keep the constitutional Republic of Korea. And you know, one of the things I respect about the Epoch Times is that the Epoch Times tries to be factual. And in this time where there's all this propaganda and fake news and extreme spin put on things and things along those lines from too many media sources, the Epoch Times has been a source of facts. That's something I really appreciate about the Epoch Times.